welcome to episode 14 or possibly 15, I'm not entirely sure, of this week's podcast. So we're so grateful that you guys continue to watch week after week. If you're a new viewer, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. We love seeing new faces around here, both in the shop and on our online community as well. Typically, I start off the show with finished objects and then works in progress. Unfortunately, this week, I've been a little bit busy and have not had any finished objects this week. Wah, wah. I have lots in progress, but I didn't bring a ton to show you because I really only worked on 2 projects this whole week. This week, if you came into the shop, you knew that I was exhibiting at a quilt show in Conroe, and so I took a lot of our yarn and accessories and notions and things and took them to the Golden Compass Quilt Guild show, I believe. It was in Conroe this past weekend, and exhibited. Saw some familiar faces, which was awesome, and I think we should can't talk this morning, spread the word about the yarn shop to lots of people who had no idea that we were around. So if you're watching this podcast from seeing me at the show, hi and welcome. So glad you tuned in. So since I don't have any finished objects this week, I'll try to have a finished object next week. I don't know what that's going to be yet because I don't really have anything close enough to get finished this week because it's going to be a busy week. It's always a busy week. And I will say this, I'm going to ramble for a few minutes, so bear with me. And this is a very good problem to have. The busier that the yarn shop gets and the more the word gets out there, the less and less time I have to knit, which is amazing because that means more people are finding the shop. But it means that I usually can't knit a whole lot here at the shop, which is fine. I mean, most people that run a successful yarn shop, they can never really, truly, unless they plan it out, they can't knit at their own shop. So it's a perfect problem to have, and I'm working my way towards that. But I did actually this weekend not this weekend, really Sunday, I got a chance to knit quite a bit, and I knit a little bit at the show on one of my projects that's super easy. I didn't even have to look at the pattern. I actually knit until I ran out of the yarn I brought at the show for it. But yeah, this weekend we were busy. I had some people over at the house, but on Sunday I had a nice relaxing Sunday. I had my little office set up, and I call it my office. It is technically an office because the printer and computer and all that stuff, but it's also like my creative studio. So when I want to sew, I have my sewing room set up in there. When I'm going to knit, I have a little knitting area. I can sit at my desk, or I can sit in the sitting area, sit and knit. And so I sat and knit and watched some podcasts. So that was great. In case you're wondering, the podcast that I like to listen to regularly is Joji Locatelli's journal. She calls them Joji's Journals. Those are very good, and Joji is spelled Joji, in case you want to Google search that. Her journals are really good. She talks about knitting and sewing and the design process behind a lot of her designs, which is really neat. And this last episode, she had her mom on and kind of not really interviewed her mom, but shared what her mom was knitting and what her mom likes to knit and all that kind of stuff, which was really neat. Then I also like to watch the Espadrille podcasts. They really only they don't podcast during the summer, just during the fall and winter months. So they just started back and have one episode, and they usually only do one a month, so there's not as many of those. I also like Catnip podcast done by our very own Grace, who works here at the shop, and I like the Chelsea Pearls podcast. That's a fun one. Really funny group of ladies that have a yarn shop up in New Jersey. I like to watch the interviews that Christy Glass does of the different designers and dyers in the yarn world. And I also like the Stranded podcast by Amy Florence. It's fun because she's British, so she has a very cute accent and talks a lot about British yarn shows and British wools and things like that, as well as American stuff. So that's fun. And of course, Fruity Knitting podcast is really nice. It can be kind of long, but they usually have a good interview with each episode. So you could even fast forward and just get the interview section of usually a designer or maybe a yarn mill or an indie dyer or someone that has some sort of interest or business in the yarn and fiber world. So it's very fascinating to watch. Okay, so moving on to what I actually worked on. First project is my May sweater, which is a design by Andrea Mowry, and it's called May, M-A-E, and it is I forgot my pattern. It's literally so easy right now because I'm just doing the body and there's no increases or decreases. It's just a straight repeat of the stitch pattern, which is very easy. I'm not gonna share it because that would not be right, but it's very easy. So it's a V-neck tunic, so V front and back, with just a small little sleeve, drop sleeve kind of design, and it's high in the front and low in the back. It's still a tunic, so it's not like it's like cropped in the front at all. It's very long, so it's great to wear with leggings, but it's lower in the back than it is in the front. So let me show you at a good spot where you can see the design details. So you can see the stitch pattern is really cool, and then you can see it's higher, a little bit higher in the front than it is the back, and that's just done with short rows. So I'm really pleased with how it's looking. Let's see if get a back view. There we go. And so I think you knit to maybe 20 inches from the bottom hem up, so I've knit a decent amount. Still need to knit more before we separate for the sleeves, because I do want this to be a long tunic style top that I can wear with leggings this winter. I actually went and bought some, they have the online, some olive green, like dark. They're almost black, but if you put them next to black, you realize they're not black, they're olive green leggings to go with this. I think that would be really cool. And they're like leather looking. They're not leather, but they look like leather. So anyway, so I worked on this, ran out of yarn, so I had to, I have the yarn, I just didn't have any wound, and I didn't have it at the show with me. So came up and wound it up at the shop today. This is not a yarn that I carry, but it is a worsted weight, and we have quite a bit of worsted weight yarn here at the shop that you can pick from. You only need, I want to say the yardage range, depending on the size you make, and she does say, because there's quite a bit of positive ease, if you're between sizes, size down, because there is about 10 inches of positive ease. So I'm making the small, because I was between the small and the medium. So I'm making the small, and the yardage range is from, I want to say like 780 for the extra small, up to maybe like right at around 1100 for like a 2XL, I think. So it's not a lot of yardage, which is nice for a project. Plus you knit it up on big needles. These are like, I think 11s. Yeah, they're 11s. Worsted weight, so it goes quickly. I cast this on, I think, last week, because I cast it on when we were on our trip, which seems like it was forever ago, but it was only last week, I think. So I don't know when it was. Anyway, I've only been working on this maybe 2 weeks, and like I said earlier, I wasn't knitting on it exclusively. So yeah, This is my May sweater. I really like the fabric that it's being created here. It's not too dense, but it's not see-through wholly or anything like that. I mean, I'll probably wear a tank top underneath it, but I won't feel like I have to wear a tank top underneath, I'm thinking, once it's all blocked out. And the yarn is very nice. I think all I said was I don't carry the yarn, but the yarn is actually by Brooklyn Tweed, and it's their ranch label. I didn't bring the label over here, but it's a yarn that it was from a climate beneficial ranch, and so it was eco produced and then spun and processed all right around the same area, so low carbon footprint and everything, but it was just a one-time limited batch. So the ranch is no longer available unless you happen to find a local yarn store that still has a little bit of stock. And the colorway that I do have is called, I believe it's Ironstone 1 is the colorway, which is a really pretty stone taupey kind of color. Mostly solid, but there's just hints of a little bit of variegation once the piece is knit. Then you really can't see it in the skein. You can't even see it when it's wound. I mean, it looks like just one solid color, but in the piece itself, there's tiny little bits. I don't think you can see it on camera, but there's just these little hints of slightly grayer and slightly browner tones throughout. And it's really pretty. This would look good in a variegated because the stitch pattern, I don't think you would lose it in a tonally variegated yarn. Something super speckly, you might lose that stitch pattern, but you know, we have a lot of Yarn Carnival and Dream in Color worsted weights that we just got in sweater quantities that would be beautiful. In fact, let me grab. These would all be gorgeous. You could do a really nice dark moody one in Torchwood. Oops. Yarn down. You could do a fun Christmassy one. This is Poppy, and it's reading a little cherry on the camera, but it does have cherry and then true red and then just the tiniest bits of like a cherry pink. So it's really pretty. Then this is Emerald Darkness. That would be beautiful in the May sweater. This would even be nice, and this would not be too speckly. This is called Mesa. This would give a really pretty look. And then this is Gold Experience. Again, mustard is a really hot color for fall. So this would be kind of that mustard golden color. This is Gray Tabby. This is not quite as dark as Torchwood, and it's definitely more gray, blue-gray. The other one is kind of more of a brown-gray tone. Of course, Unimaginable, a taupey favorite. This is going to be fairly close to what I have, just a little bit more brown than gray. And then this one's called Iceland. Beautiful sky blue. And there's some variegation in this too. You can kind of see it up there, so that you've got some kind of robin's egg blue and sky blue variegation. That's going to be really pretty in a May sweater. And of course we have the Forbidden Fiber Trunk Show. There's some worsted weight. A couple colors we still have quantity enough. We've got Yarn Carnival, a couple colors that would have enough yardage. Chicken Coop Dye Works, we still have a little bit left over of sweater quantities from her trunk show. Yeah, and you can always try, if you did want something a little bit lighter weight for our climate, which is Texas, you could do DK weight, but with the same needle size to get gauge. And because then it would just be a little more open. And that would be really pretty too. And we have quite a few DK options. So that's that project. Then this, hold on, my yarn has done something weird. Okay. So this, both of the projects I'm showing you, I don't even carry this yarn. This is a project for Josh, and I've shown it before. But this, let me fold it up, is called the Mount Auburn cardigan. You can see that cabling. Isn't that beautiful? So this is a cardigan that was featured, there you go, you can see how much I've done. Ta-da! That was featured in the Interweave magazine, the fall one. And they had done it in a beautiful maroon color. And that's very pretty, but I mean, maroon is fine for Josh, but he already has a couple maroon sweaters, not ones that I made him. This is actually going to be my first sweater that I've made him. I've made hats, socks, and a scarf, but not a sweater. So I saw this pattern and he loved it, I loved it, and it called for worsted weight yarn, but I wanted to do something very rustic, a rustic wool. I really don't sell a whole lot of rustic wools. I do have some non-superwash wools, and I have some other breed specific wools like Corriedale and Polworth and things like that. So that's definitely more on the rustic side, but it's not a true rustic yarn like a Lopi or things like that. Typically, they're harder to find hand dyed. They're either commercially dyed or undyed. Now, I am looking for some sources of undyed, more rustic wools to carry in the shop, especially for the winter time, because it's kind of a popular thing right now, to do more of the rustic wools, which would be really fun, and I've enjoyed working with them. So if you happen to know, or you are a rustic hand dyer or rustic producer that does not commercially dye your yarn, let me know. But anyway, back to this. So I looked, it called for worsted weight, and I was wanting a British rustic yarn, like a Blacker yarn or John Arbon or Jameson's. So very traditional Scottish or Irish or English wool, preferably breed specific, and wasn't finding anything in the weight I needed for the pattern, and I really didn't want to go through all the math of converting it into a DK weight and all that and trying to get gauge and everything. So I went ahead and got the yarn that it called for, just in a different colorway, and it's Harrisville Designs brand Watershed, which is a U.S. sourced and milled yarn from New Hampshire, and it's been very nice to work with. This is a little bit of the ball. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of tweedy, which is what I was looking for, was more of a tweedy look to the yarn, very rustic. And I say rustic, this is not scratchy by any means. It's a toothy yarn, so I can cable without a cable needle. I've dropped stitches, taken them off, and they just stay there. The most amazing thing with this is I can split splice my ends and work them in, and there's going to be like maybe 3 ends to weave in this whole thing. So that's amazing. Because the yarn, it's of course not superwash, it's a virgin wool. And I don't have a label with me, and I'm not sure, I can't remember if this was a breed specific. I don't think it was a breed specific. I think it was a mix of several different wools or sheep breeds. But it's, of course, non-superwash, so it will tend to felt as the garment is worn slightly and, heat and everything. And so that's great for your ends and your seams and everything because those will felt over time and you're not going to start unraveling or anything. So I've really been pleased with the yarn and how it's turning out. I've almost completed 2 full cable pattern repeats. And I believe, and then you've got like some moss stitch on the sides because there's basically, it's knit in the flat. This is the wrong side. This is the right side. And so you have a cable pattern here, cable pattern, moss stitch over around the side, cable pattern on the back, moss stitch around the sides, cable pattern in the front, and then I'll work it up, split for the sleeves, work the front, work the back, join up at the top, make sleeves. They're set-in sleeve style, and then pick up all around the edge and do a wide button band and collar. It's not really a shawl collar, but it is a wide stand-up collar. The pattern's available on Ravelry. It's called Mount Auburn, so MT period Auburn cardigan. And it's really nice. I love it. You've got nice bit of ribbing here at the bottom with a tubular bind on. And it was a different type of tubular bind on that I had done before. I've done like an Italian tubular bind on. And this was a bit different, and this gives a really nice look. It almost looks on the front and the bottom like it would have been a fold over hem, but there's no seam anywhere. So it's really nice. Love the construction. And I just dropped everything. So that's my 2 works in progress. I have also my papers here. I, of course, have lots of other projects in process. I have my Rhapsody in Cables sweater, which no progress has been made since last episode when I finished the 1 sleeve. I have my chrysalis shawl, which is kind of on the back burner right this moment. I don't need it as a shop sample for another couple months, so it's not that I'm not loving the design or anything. I do love it. It's just not something I need to be working on at this moment. I also have the Kyler shawl. Kyler's by Isabel Kramer. I am working on that, and we're having a class upcoming on the Kyler shawl and reading charts and lace. So check on our website. The class is listed there. You can email or call to reserve your spot for that. What else do I have in progress? That might technically be the only thing on the needles, but I am going to cast on October 6th, I believe it is, or 5th, something like that, the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. So I have my yarn for that. I'll probably show it next episode because I haven't wound it or anything, but I'll probably show that next episode. I have shown some options for you guys on our Instagram. If you're wanting to join in, we don't have kits necessarily for it, but we have lots of yarn that will work for his Mystery Knit Along. And then I'm also doing a test knit for Lavanya Patricella, and I just wound my yarn this morning for it. Made my decision. So it's a 2-color shawl using a mohair held double and a fingering weight yarn. And the fingering weight that I'm going with is this. Isn't that a fun color? So this is Hedgehog Skinny Single. It wound really funky, but it had a knot in the middle and so I had to stop and start the winder a couple times, so it wound a little funky. This is Hedgehog Skinny Single, and the colorway is called... I think it's a Z. Xanaloria or Fanalona. I'm not sure what you would call that. There's definitely an A kind of faded at the end. I believe this was a club colorway when I was part of her clubs, but we have lots of Ching and Hedgehog colors that would work for this as well. The pattern will be coming out, I believe she said at either the end of October or in November sometime. And then the mohair, I'm going to hold it double, is this NBK in papyrus or papyrus. And it's just a nice taupe. So you need, for this pattern, a definite contrast. So like a bold and a neutral, or white and black, black and hot pink, variegated and solid, but in very contrasty colors for it to really pop. I mean, you could do similar and it's going to give a different effect, but I think personally for this pattern, you want it to pop. So that's what I'm doing. So I won't be able to show you on the podcast any progress or finished objects of that shawl until it's released. But once it is finished, even before it's released, once it's all blocked and I've sent in my pictures, it will be here at the shop as a store sample. So if you want to see a sneak peek of it, you can come and check it out. Now, let's see, is there anything else I'm casting on? There is possibility that I cast on Melanie Burke, no, not Melanie Burke, Maryland, her Decemberist shawl. Look it up on Ravelry. I participated in Fiber Share for the first time this year, and my amazing partner from Australia sent me her shawl book that was just released not too long ago. And I'd been eyeing the Decemberist shawl on Ravelry. Decemberist is the month IST, so December IST-ist. And it's a shawl that it just needs 300 yards of a super bulky. But I think instead of super bulky, I'm going to knit it up in either a Aran or just slightly chunky, or even just a heavy worsted, so that it's a little bit more airy and not so thick. But it's a beautiful, I'll say plain stockinette, and then with like a lacy chevron-y type of border. Not like true lace. I mean, it is lace, but it's not like a Bunitz lace pattern. Just a little bit of a lace detail with these fun little spiky things that come down. So I'm considering doing that, but I probably won't cast that one on until I have the mystery knit along started, my test knit well underway, and the Kyler shawl more finished. Trying to think, what else? What else is there to talk about? We haven't gotten much of anything new since the last podcast. Everything, I've been paying off the deposits and everything, and so next week, or I'll say this week we might have some items arrive, and for sure next week we'll have more items for fall arrive. We've got some events going on. No, not September. September's almost gone. Can you believe that? October, we have a fairly full October calendar. All of the classes can be viewed on our website. Viewed. What's viewed? Viewed, I don't believe is a word. Viewed on our website, and you can call or email to reserve your spot. But we have beginner knitting class, and I believe that's October 5th. It's a Friday in the afternoon. So that's a beginner knitting class. So if you've got friends that want to learn to knit and are local, send them in. They do need to RSVP because it's limited seating. What else? Then we've got the Kyler class, which is a beginning chart and lace class that I'll be teaching. That one is going to be $40, but you get the Kyler wrap pattern included with the class. And all you need to do is bring your yarn and needles, and we'll cast it on and work through the chart so that you fully understand chart reading, and you'll be able to read any sort of chart and also get your fingers dipped into some lace knitting. They're doing something next door. Just don't know what. And then we've also got an Christmas ornament class on the books. Grace is going to be teaching that. She's going to be showing you how to make several different ornaments. The patterns are all included, and we will have a bucket of some scrap yarn that you can pick through and use. Plus, we're also encouraging on that ornament class, it's ornament and decor type stuff, to bring your like leftover bits, because you just need little bits of yardage on each one, of the correct yard weight, which I believe it's mostly DK and worsted, but I'll have to double check. But bring yours and can do a scrap swap with the ones that we have and with the other people in the class as well. So you can make a nice variety of Christmas ornaments and decor pieces for your house. And then we also have another class on last minute Christmas gifts. I believe there's going to be 2 or 3 patterns involved with that one, but I'm not entirely sure yet. Patterns will be included with the class though. So, like I said, all the details are on the website, or you can give us a call, or shoot us an email. What else? See, I'm filming on a different day than I normally do. I'm filming on Monday. I usually film on Tuesday, but I'm getting my car cleaned tomorrow, and I needed to offload everything from the show, so I had to come up here on Monday, and might as well just get the podcast done. Oh, what else? This week, 28th is Saturday. 28th, we will have Lina issue 6 available for sale in the store. Several of you guys have already emailed or called to have me hold one aside for you. That's great. I still have several more copies if you want to call ahead or email and have me hold a copy for you, and then just come in and pay for it, or I can ship it. So just let me know which option you need, and we will make sure that happens, and that will be this week. So we sell them, we have them for sale on the 28th, which I believe is a Saturday. So what we'll do is, see, they'll probably go in the mail Monday then, because I'll be able to process all of your orders on Saturday and get them in the mail on Monday. Just because I can't get back out till after the post office is already closed. So, let's see, what else? We've gotten in more Likey needles. I think I talked about that last time, but we have lots of Likeys, indigo mini sets, full-size sets, crochet sets, 16-inch fixed circulars. We've gotten more cords in. I'm still back ordered on some of my shorter cords, but I do have the fixed 16-inch sizes in Likeys. And Chiagus, we now have individual needles as well as the sets. Excuse me. And we have minis and shorties. So that's 9-inch, 10-inch, 11 and 12-inch sizes, up to 14, I think, in both interchangeable and fixed in Chiagus. So we have lots of options. And we also have a few of the spinny cords as well. So, yeah, lots of that. October 13th, I believe it's the second Saturday in October. We will have a trunk show from Night Owl Fibers, so be sure and come support a local indie dyer. She's from the Houston area, so can't wait to have her come into the shop and set up. And then, of course, this is your last week to get anything from the Forbidden Fiber Trunk Show, because that gets packed up this Friday and off in the mail to them back in Tennessee. What else? I think that's about it. Oh, this is kind of big news. We will, some of you know this, starting October, the first Tuesday of October, we'll begin opening the shop on Tuesdays from 10 to 5. So, yeah, we'll be open on Tuesdays. Exciting. I'm not 100% sure it's going to be 10 to 5. It may just be noon to 5 on Tuesdays. We're still trying to work out scheduling. But we will begin opening on Tuesdays starting in October. Time is almost determined. It's not yet to be determined. It's almost determined. So anyway, I think I have rambled on long enough. I really don't have much else to show you right now. Look at this beautiful wall of yarn. Let's get my hand to go. There we go. Lots of amazing goodies. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. All of the details on following and our social media and things like that will scroll at the end. But if you want to follow us, we're on Instagram at The Modern Skein. My personal is at Mrs._Sharon_Graff, Graff. Of course, we have our website. We do ship internationally as well as domestically. Domestic orders, which is continental U.S., ship for free over $50, and we ship to Canada for free in orders over $75 US. Yeah. So thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see you next week. Bye-bye, and happy knitting!